DW Africa Link News.
At least 21 people have been killed in the past week in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo by militants linked to the ADF rebel group. The attacks all took place near the town of Mangrejipa after rebel forces conducted an incursion into the villages of Robinet and Kodjo in the North Kivu province. The ADF, or Allied Democratic Forces, originate from Uganda and have been responsible for the deaths of thousands of civilians in the DRC's restive northeast. The UN Security Council has endorsed a decision by the African Union Peace and Security Council to replace its transition mission in Somalia with the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission. The UN authorized AU members to take all necessary precautions in 2025 to help the government of Somalia win its fight against the Al-Shabaab jihadist terror group and its affiliates, which are linked to Islamic State. This move effectively represents a devolution of further national security responsibilities to Somalia's government forces. More than 1,700 irregular migrants have arrived on Spain's Canary Islands over the Christmas period, with over 500 being rescued at sea. Over 28 boats arrived on the islands of Gran Canaria, Lanzarote, and El Hierro in less than a week. In 2024, more than 45,000 people reached the island group in the Atlantic Ocean, while nearly 10,000 are believed to have drowned, according to the migration charity Caminando Fronteras. Tributes from around the world have been coming in to honor former US President Jimmy Carter, who died aged 100. Former Republican President George W. Bush said the legacy of the late Carter will, quote, inspire Americans for generations, while former Democratic President Barack Obama said that Carter had taught, quote, all of us what it means to live a life of grace, dignity, justice, and service. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, meanwhile, said that the US had lost, quote, a committed fighter for democracy. DW's Melissa Kent has this report.
Jimmy Carter began his career in the US Navy, where he reached the rank of lieutenant. On his father's death, Carter took over the family's peanut farm. His political career began in his native Georgia, where he eventually became state governor. He was one of the first politicians in the conservative South to call for the end of racial segregation. A Democrat, he became president in 1976, despite being a relative political unknown. One of his greatest diplomatic successes was the Camp David Accords in 1978. Under Carter's mediation, the then Israeli Prime Minister and the Egyptian President signed their first peace agreement. But Carter's term was also plagued by economic woes and an energy crisis, and his approval ratings plummeted. The Iran hostage crisis from 1979 to 1981 sealed his political fate. He lost the 1980 elections in what was a landslide victory for Ronald Reagan. After his presidency, Jimmy Carter concentrated on his humanitarian work. His diplomatic influence on the international stage was unique. One of his successes was a peace mission to North Korea. Jimmy Carter was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002.
Outgoing US President Joe Biden, meanwhile, has declared January 9th a national day of mourning to honor the passing of the former leader. Thank you for joining us today, and make sure to come back for more. And don't forget to hit that follow button.